and welcome to this festive edition of On the Fly, joined by two people I know very well today. The first is the very festive-looking Barry Forsythe, newly promoted Associate Director for Greenacre. And the man on my left of my screen is well, we're going to call him Wade Oakley to begin with. But, mystery man, if you could reveal yourself. And he would have got away with it if it wasn't for those meddling kids. But we're once again joined by Gerraint Oakley, Executive Director of Development and Growth at Platform. Gentlemen, how are we?
Very good.
Very good indeed.
Very good.
I think we said that we'd get together for a little video, a bit of a recording to discuss all things housing, COVID, Christmas, and also just to bring some amusement, I guess, to people towards the end of what's been a very, frankly, challenging year. So yeah, G, how are you? It's good to have you back on. I appreciate the effort you've made today.
Thank you very much. I'm very good, thanks. I'm still managing to navigate the tier systems and the lockdown in Wales and getting out and about, going to see some sites, which is great. But everybody's got their challenges, but it's nice to get out and about.
Yeah. And Mr. Forsythe, are you well? Are you? You're looking very festive.
Well, yeah, I only got my jacket on today. I did actually forget to bring the rest of it on, but I'm wondering if the baubles on my chin are going to jingle too much for this recording.
Are they lighting up on the two ones there?
Two of them do, yeah.
Very festive, very festive. So, gents, as I think we're fully all aware, there wasn't really too much agenda of what we wanted to talk about today. But I guess with G, with the kind of area that you work in development, we've had a couple of conversations offline about where the sector's going in next year and things of that sort. So, I guess one of the questions I think people will be keen to hear about is where is development going in 2021? Where are the pressures? Where are the successes going to come from? And give your overall opinion, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem. As you know, I joined Platform way in June and joined having not met anybody face to face until August, I think, maybe. So I've been through the process of joining an organisation during lockdown and doing it remotely, which was, I think we mentioned on our previous chat, that that brings with it a lot of insight, which was good. From our perspective, at Platform, we're committing, we just got into a planning process to build our next 5-year strategy and a business case around how we grow as an organisation, both in terms of the number of homes we deliver and geographically. So it's an interesting time, exciting time for us. So I think you're seeing some HAs looking at the challenges they've got and potentially ratcheting back on their development programmes, which is sad to see because we've done so well over the past few years in delivery. So we want to get to that 2,000 homes target for ourselves over that 5-year process, which is great because I'm building a good team. We're getting some new talent in, which for Platform is a wonderful thing and a wonderful place to be. Challenges, how many? We can try and stay on the upbeat side of it.
Yeah.
With all the challenges bring opportunities, let's face it.
Just don't mention the C word. Just don't mention the C word.
Okay, I won't mention the C word. So, right, yeah. The market, what's the market doing? Anybody could guess what the market's doing at the minute. I think we're going to see some significant changes going into the new year. It's been an incredibly buoyant market brought about by some external manipulation, things like the stamp duty holiday. You've got Help to Buy continuing. How's that going to pan out next year? There's the Brexit piece. It used to be we couldn't talk about the B word, didn't it? Now that's almost like whatever. At the moment we're facing today, aren't we? It's a no deal. So how does that pan out for us? You think these things are going to hit us anyway. We just got to brace ourselves, plan, future-proof the organisation and get to it. And we're looking at doing more MMC, which is exciting. We're talking to modular build manufacturers. We're looking at panelised systems, really trying to push our agenda to a reduced carbon footprint and ultimately a zero carbon build programme, which is great. Growing the team, looking at innovation, sustainability, driving down heating and lighting costs for our buildings, looking at how we can help our tenants live economically in great built houses. So yeah, it's exciting times. I'm really looking forward to getting into it next year.
Definitely. And I think the C word, as it were, delayed things. Because I remember, Barry, back in January, we all got together at Greenacre and sustainability was pretty much the number one agenda piece for where we think development is going to go next year. We know how are people building homes, how are they maintaining them, making them efficient. And it seems to be very much where the market's going next year as well.
Yeah.
I certainly think so. And I wondered whether, you've got an insight into, I suppose, with everybody's working life changing. So as all working, many people now working from home, at least a certain part of that. Do you think that will change the design of like people's residential properties?
Well, there used to be a design standard for having showing a desk space in the property. If you go back at not too distant future, I think we're going to have to. I think the strange thing about this is we've skirted, bird flu in the past, viral infections that have brought us to a standstill. I think we've probably got to future-proof ourselves for that. I think all of it, not just the internal space, but defensible public open space that people can use that is high quality. When we're building apartments, building apartments with balconies so people have outdoor space that they can get to. And probably see changes in things like access systems, more no-touch systems in communal spaces, probably. If you think about the logic behind that, and that's not just housing, that's about, any place you go to. So, yeah, I think we'll see that. I think, interestingly, we've been looking at some great modular stuff. There's a company called Mod Pods that I went to look at recently, and they've got a 2-bed detached unit that basically 2 bedrooms, and in the middle on the landing is a pair of doors you open out, and it's a little office, really neatly niched away. Wouldn't even know it's there. So they're obviously thinking about that future proofing. And it doesn't take a lot to do that. I mean, it does take up some of your space, but ultimately, good design can do it, in a relatively small home. So, yeah, I think there's great opportunities.
And with modular as well. Remember, so I started in the industry now. It'll be 8 years January when I started recruiting, and for years everyone was going on about modular, but it never really seems to have fully kicked off, type of thing. Do you think now is the time that it will do, or has it already kicked off in your eyes?
I think we're stepping over the edge now, where people are actually starting to commit to it, because there's a perfect marry-up. I think you've got manufacturers that need supply chain assurity, so they know that when they're manufacturing, they've got an end user. HAs have massive programs, and I think there's that step change is that HAs need to embrace it. I mean, we should be the early adopters. It doesn't necessarily fit with volume house builders. We know that they like to control their build program and control their WIP for obvious reasons. For us, we've always got an end user. We've always got somebody, whether it's social rent, affordable rent, private rent, for sale, shared ownership, whatever tenure, we've got a customer for it, because the demand is going like that. And supply, unfortunately, is not tracking that and never has. And interestingly, going back to some of those challenges, I think some of the biggest things we've got to face going into next year is the planning reform and adjusting to that, and how that's going to affect the delivery of affordable housing. That is a big one. So you got the sustainability and carbon piece, the planning piece, and then the supply chain. And then of course getting talent and retaining talent and growing your own, as well as bringing people in. But it's great opportunities. I think if we can get ourselves attuned to the modular manufacturers and give them a surety of supply, it could be a perfect marry-up.
Definitely. And I think talent's something me and Barry specialise in considerably, and you'll be aware as well, Baz, not just within development but across housing as a board. Salaries have been inflating and increasing for years now, and there's that question that keeps on going: is it sustainable? We're just seeing silly money being thrown around for officer level roles as well. So I'd be keen to get your thoughts, not on development as well, but also housing as a whole, where you think salaries are going, what you think the talent market's going to be like next year, and your overall opinions on that.
Certainly, I agree. And G sort of touched on it, and it's probably a living example of the new way of working. So you're Wales-based, working for a provider in centre of centre of the country, or centre of England, should we say? But actually, one of the reasons why, so during this pandemic, we've gone and changed our operating model to be more sort of strengths-based and discipline-based. So, Skipper, you now sort of head up that development piece across the whole country, rather than it being geographical sort of specialism. And the reason for that is that it's sort of in response to the market. So rather than having to look at who's the best person within a commutable distance of an organisation, it's now looking at who is the best person for that organisation in that role. And I think that's certainly the way that organisations, those more forward-thinking organisations, are going, and those that don't will then be at the bottom of the pile. And that's probably going to then, I wonder if it's going to impact on salaries across the country, because I suppose historically London is where the higher salaries are. So are people just going to be drawn to those organisations because they don't actually have to go down to London so much? Or alternatively, are those organisations who are now competing with London, are they going to have to look at salaries, and is it going to bring some kind of parity across the board? I don't think it'll be sort of parity, but I wonder if it will impact in some way.
I agree, mate. And I think, G, me and you touched on it in our last episode. Businesses now, if you're not offering remote working, that's just automatically the biggest turn off that you can offer a candidate. People aren't even asking me anymore. First question after it is what the salary or package is. They're asking me, is remote working available? And if you say it's not, or they're working towards it, they get very cold feet about even looking at that opportunity. So they really need to be aware of that moving forwards, because that's what talent want now. We've been shown that people can work from home. Business continuity, still works. It absolutely is going to be another talking point of next year.
I think one of the keys to it is you've got to have that flexibility. I think platform were already quite far advanced in terms of home working, flexible working, and very progressively had gone ahead of that. All the execs were already home based before I even started. But I'm an advocate for it. I think the other point is that with development, you need to be out and about anyway. You need to be out there. You need to look at the land. You need to watch the build programs. So we are pretty agile in itself. But definitely, whenever I speak to candidates now, it's about, does it matter where I'm based? It depends on the type of role. Depends what role you're doing. What is it you provide if it is flexible working? Because of course it is about having the tools to do it. It's all very well saying, you're home based, but if you can't do it comfortably and effectively, it can be a real challenge for people. But somebody said to me once when I was in development previously, if all the bees are in the hive, no one's out collecting pollen for the honey. So you need to be out and about doing the work, because that's what it's about. So it is a transition. I think it's obviously something that we should have been moving to earlier. But the sooner we get that. I think the other thing is, I think if we think it's a temporary measure, what are you going to go back to? Because it's not going to be the same, because you will have, as you said, a lot of people have enjoyed this. And I caveat that there are many people who found it a real challenge for different reasons. And I think we've got to factor that in for the solution we have in the future to meet those needs. People like that water cooler chat and, the social life outside it, and all of that, that's a challenge for people. Work is a big part of their life.
And it is a balance, absolutely. I spoke to a couple of people, names, but they're stressed about going back into the office because it's the little things, like they can't use the communal areas, they can't use cutlery, they can't use the coffee machine. If they wish to bring in food, it has to be from home in a package. They can't use the microwaves to heat it up. So at this time, I don't understand why you would stress people out. But as we kind of hopefully get through the pandemic and things calm down a little bit, I think that nice blend of, you can go into the office, interact with people, but also have the opportunity to work from home. If you have children, you need that flexibility. And me and Barry are huge advocates of it. And we've seen how much it's worked at Greenacre. We're only a small business. We're allowed to be agile. But for the most part, I think the workforce our little workforce is quite happy, aren't they, Baz?
Yeah, and certainly from my perspective, I felt so isolated. I had to clone myself to bring myself cups of tea, and it's luckily we're with an organisation that is able to fund that kind of scientific research.
Exactly. Well, we're looking at many new forms of business. So I think Greenacre Technologies or Greenacre Biogenics or something is going to be our next trademark. We'll see how that plays out. But gentlemen, on a lighter note as well, like I said, I didn't want to just talk shop all day today. Obviously, Christmas is coming up. It's important for people to get to know everybody on the call a little bit better. So one question I wanted to ask you all was an obvious one, and you can see from my background where this is going. What is your favourite Christmas film of all time? G, I'll go to you first.
And it's not because it's behind you. It is. I love Die Hard. I do love it. Definitely. Mind you, for fun watching with the kids, The Grinch, but Die Hard always makes me feel Christmassy.
Yeah. And anyone that says Die Hard isn't a Christmas film is A, wrong, and B, look at the thematics of it. You have jingles in the soundtrack. There are Christmas trees everywhere, and it's also set on Christmas Eve. So, yes. Barry, I think I know what yours is, but yeah.
What do you think it is?
I think it's Home Alone.
Well, no, that's definitely up there. I think it would actually have to be Santa Claus the movie. I used to watch it with my brothers every Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And that would mean that Christmas is about to happen. Although if they made a Sister Act 3 back in the festive spirit, then that would be my favourite film.
Is the Santa Claus one with Tim Allen where he takes over the?
No, that's the Santa Claus.
Oh, okay,
this is a very traditional. It's got Dudley Moore in.
Oh wow! So we are going old school then. So yes, I can see why you old people would know what that is. But yeah, have you guys? What are the plans for Christmas? Looking forward to it.
What's your favourite film?
Oh, it's Die Hard easily. That's why I said, you can't go wrong with it. Others that are up there, I do love Home Alone, always a giggle. Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger is, pretty good fun. But a lot of them I just find complete rocks, to be honest with you. No, I can't do Will Ferrell. No,
I love Elf.
No, not for me.
One of the films you like, I can't take him in long, but that one, yeah, that's fine.
I'm not trying to do any other Christmas films, but no, I think that's about it for Christmas films from me. The play's been thawed out now. I've heard Mariah Carey 1,001 times already, and we're only 11 days into December. So, but yeah, have you chaps got much on for Christmas? Exciting plans? We could obviously mock Welsh rugby continuously for their performance this year, but I don't know, do you want to go down that rabbit hole?
It's like I've been thrown back to the 1980s and 90s again. Having grown up in the 70s watching Wales play, then going through the seasons we've had relatively recently. This year has been, forget everything else, this has been a very challenging year. Very challenging.
It was a nice early Christmas present for us, wasn't it, Skippy?
It was just seeing the Welsh just absolutely capitulate and barely built the likes of Georgia and Italy.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Wi-Fi's gone.
But yeah, have you chaps got much on? Are you breaking up soon? What the plans? I don't want to take too much time, but it's always nice to see what people are up to.
I will be working right up to Christmas Eve, and then small family gathering, funnily enough, and probably do a lot of cycling and going back to your theme, not feeding the koi carp, which apparently makes them explode. So I'm not going to feed them through the winter. That's something I've got to get. Remember.
Maybe just one of them. It might be interesting.
No.
You could get a viral video on Twitter or something. So
exploding koi carp.
Yeah, Christmas koi carp. So Barry, I think you'll be staying quiet yourself, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, 2 young kids. The beauty is I've got a 7, nearly 8-year-old boy, so I can just buy the toys that I want. He got a Scale Electric last year. He's going to get a games console this year. This is on LinkedIn, isn't it? So he's not going to see this.
No, mate, it won't be on Facebook.
He's all over Twitter, but he's not really on LinkedIn. So yeah, it'll probably just be playing those games and drinking and eating.
See, this was the year that my 12-year-old daughters wanted to know the truth, so they now know the truth. But the one has decided to ignore that truth and still believes. So I still have to do that damned elf on a shelf thing, or elf from the shelf, whatever it is.
We've done that the first time this year, and I already regret it.
There's some genius on Twitter or Facebook has put Elf on the Shelf in various horror films. So there's a face hugger from Alien eating him with a broken egg next to him. There's like Jigsaw making him go through like horror challenges. It's brilliant. I'll share it with you chaps after, but it properly cracks me up. But yeah, I don't have children, but I see the pain that parents have to go through now every December with this Elf on a Shelf business.
Did you see the one I tweeted with him on a plate, and it was just chicken bones and the hat on, and then tomato sauce?
It's I don't wish that kind of nonsense. And then do you still do the mince pie and carrot at fireplace at Christmas? Is that still a thing?
Absolutely. Yeah. But Father Christmas doesn't drink sherry anymore. He drinks a nice glass of port.
Is that so someone can hop down after the kids have gone to bed and treat themselves?
Allegedly.
I might leave a can of Guinness near our fireplace this year and see what happens to it, and see if Santa comes to visit. We've been a naughty boy or a good boy type of thing. But
I know where that. I know where that is. I saw your TV interview about whether you'd have a jab.
Well, that's going down a whole different rabbit warren, to be honest with you, because if anyone would like to look at that article, I could send it their way. But yeah, let's just say that it's caused some debate, shall we say?
Yeah. Well, you see the thing about the fact that they think they've got a chip in it and they're injecting you with a chip so they can monitor you, and people are whinging about it on a device that is actually built to monitor you and tell everybody where you are every second.
And the other
has built-in GPS, yeah.
If they can link it to my Strava account so I can count the miles, I'm all for it.
Well, I know that you're a keen cyclist, I regularly see it, but if you want to do a cheap plug, G, and I'm sure we'll get to you, Barry, as well for Twitter, where can people find you again if they don't know you already?
At Gerraint with a double R.
And how do you say your name again, just so to correct people?
Gerraint, which is like Pierpont with a hard G. It's not Gerraint or Gerraint or Gerraint. We've been through this before.
And Baz, where can people find you?
I think it's at Greenacre Baz.
So for any content relating to cycling, skeletal elf on a shelf, or I'm just trying to think of what you shared recently, Baz. I know some of it's work related, but I'm sure there are some humorous things here and there.
Who knows? I try and hide from it.
But gents, thanks very much for coming on today. It was just a chance to have a quick catch up and a bit of chat, a bit of fun. I appreciate you all making the effort for dressing up festive with baubles, Deadpool masks, and cloning of that sort. But all I'll say is Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Gibby and Barry.